Hello, everyone. Crafting is on its way. Maybe, hopefully, we'll see it by the end of the year or something like that. And when it shows up, I know I want to be ready with the weapons that I'm going to craft on day one of the new patch. Now, I understand that not everyone is a veteran player that has tons of resources in the bank or time to invest. So I want to create this video to show off 5 different range weapons that spread across all 4 classes. So if you're a veteran player, you can try out all of these. Or if you're a newer player, you can pick just one, see what it does and how to build it, and go straight for it whenever this new crafting does drop. So, let's hop into the simulacrum, and I'm going to show you what some of these weapons can do. So as you just saw, the first weapon we're going to look at is the Recon lasgun. Specifically, the Mark 6D is the best version of the Recon lasgun that we currently have, and you need very specific blessings to make this build work. So the blessings that you need are first and foremost Infernus. Stacking burn up to 12 stacks when you get a crit does an insane amount of damage to basically every enemy, especially bosses. And in order to get those crits, we can use Headhunter when we're getting weak shot hits to stack our critical rating. It's basically guaranteed crits without any innate crit chance on the weapon. If you do have crit chance on your weapon, and especially if you're playing as Psycher using this weapon, you already have a decent baseline critical chance, so you might not need Headhunter. If that's the case, you could sub it out for Dum Dum, because Dum Dum is going to give you bonus close range damage up to 30%, and that factors into your burn damage as well as any damage that you're doing with your assail or whatever abilities you're using on the Psycher as well. So that can be a really, really nice pairing for the Psycher. As far as our modifiers and our perks up here, for modifiers, you want damage, ammo, and collateral to all be 100 or 80% as they are, because these two directly affect your damage, and ammo is something we're going to use a lot of with this thing. Mobility and stability, one of them you can sacrifice 20% from. It's up to preference. This will offer a tiny bit more sway in the aim when you're at 60%, but it's barely noticeable because this is a lasgun. It doesn't really have any recoil, and mobility will make you just like 1% faster, having that extra 20% in mobility. So one of those two should be your dump stat, as we say. And for perks, Unyielding is absolutely the best perk because this is a weapon that does immense damage to bosses, and we want to push that even farther. You saw me melting Reapers there, who count as Unyielding. And then for the other perk, probably critical hit chance would be your best bet because, again, we want to be stacking this burn. We want to be getting 3 critical hits as fast as possible to get that burn cooking on the enemies. Let's go on to the next weapon. Alright, so what you just saw there was the shotgun. Specifically, it was the double-barreled shotgun. Unfortunately, I am not lucky enough yet to have gotten both of the blessings I need to make this shotgun all that it could be. But we'll be talking about both of those blessings here. Now, the reason I haven't gotten these blessings is because they are not tier 4 blessings. They are tier 2 blessings. You can see there's 2 more blessings in this tier than there are in the 4th one. Those 2 blessings that we want are Manstopper and Fletchet. On the shotgun that you just saw, Manstopper is what allowed it to cleave through all of those shotgunners. I think it basically gives the weapon infinite cleave if you critically hit, which is insane. That damage applied to all of them evenly, and it just eviscerates everything in front of you. But if that wasn't enough, when we get a critical hit, we can also get this blessing here, Fletchet. So that will apply bleed stacks to all the enemies we hit, which is great if we're just shooting this thing at a long range and scattering it across a bunch of like horde enemies or something like that. So those two perks can work in tandem in a really cool way. I've seen it pulled off in game by people who happen to have this combo. I have gotten Fletchette on the Cantrail, and it's interesting to note that you can get the same combo on the assault shotguns as you can, or sorry, on the like combat shotguns as you can on the double-barreled shotgun. And then with this specific shotgun, the Cantrail, you can load the flame shell into this thing, and so when you get your critical hit, it penetrates all the enemies in front of you, and it applies bleed stacks and burn to them. So you can do an immense amount of damage by loading this up, setting this up, and firing it into a crowd. Really, really cool interaction. And I think it's probably one of the more difficult weapons to get right now, just because those two blessings aren't available unless you're a low-level player or you happen to get lucky and get it from the shop. You can't roll it at Hadron if you're a max-level player. All right. What is next, then?
Do you sense Moro's weariness? His burdens are heavy.
And that is the power of the big iron. In keeping with the last few weapons, which have been available to both Veteran, Psycher, and Zealot, let's look at one more that's available to all three of those classes, which is the Revolver. Specifically the Revolver that aims down sights, not that new garbage one that can fan the hammer. This thing does a tremendous amount of damage, and that gets only bigger if we can get crits when we're shooting our bullets. Now, there, fortunately, is a way to guarantee that we get crits, and that's by the use of a few blessings here. This blessing, Surgical, is absolutely necessary to make this weapon all that it can be. It guarantees you to get a crit if you simply wait 3 seconds before firing. And if you have any other basic crit buffs, you don't have to wait 3 seconds at all. You can wait 1.5 seconds if you're the Veteran. Now, the second blessing is up to you. There's a few different availabilities for it. You could get 20% extra damage on the third and fourth shot. That might matter sometimes, but most things are dying in one shot anyway, as you just saw. It used to be the case that hand cannon was really good. It used to offer 90% rending, and it allowed us to one-shot crushers. But I feel like there's so few crushers in the game that all of these other blessings are pretty crap, except for Glory Hunter, which anytime you get an elite kill, you gain 30% toughness instantly. Especially for classes like Psycher and Veteran, where your toughness is a big portion of your health. You can trade toughness with other ranged enemies, and then as soon as you kill an elite, you boop, pop back 30%. Really, really good blessing, and it sort of rounds this weapon out because this weapon is so aggressive. It has such crazy offensive stats. It needs something to round it out and make you get a little bit of defense back. Really, really fun weapon to use. Maybe not the most meta weapon, but absolutely devastating. And it also is like swag as hell when you see someone out there 6 shooting or 5 shooting and topping the charts. Let's see what's next on deck. I don't think there's many other weapons in the game that can do what we just saw there. This thing spits out an insane amount of damage, and that's augmented all the further by the talent that allows the Ogryn to apply burn stacks for every hit while they're doing their ultimate, which is what melted that demon host so quickly. The way this weapon works is you need a couple of very specific blessings. Surprise, surprise. First off, you want your critical hit chance to be as high as possible, so we really love that. And then unyielding damage is always favorable because that applies to bosses and weapons like Reapers and Bulwarks if you can shoot past their shield. And those are enemies that we really like to kill because they have a lot of health and we can melt them very quickly. For the blessings, the number one that you absolutely need is, well, I can't even show off all of them on this one, is Charm Reload. Basically, anytime you're going to get a critical hit, which we are speccing for trying to get critical hits, you're going to load magazines from, or bullets into your magazine from your reserve. It's not free ammo. However, we do have in our talent tree for this build, we do have free ammo anytime that we get a critical hit. So we're getting a free bullet, and there's also an additional 12% chance to get a free bullet just cuz. And that also gives us cooldown back. So getting critical hits with these bullets is really, really awesome because it keeps our magazine nice and full, and it buys us time while we're waiting on our next ultimate to come up. The other blessing can be one of a couple different things. I think the best one all around is Blaze Away, because we're going to fire more than 100% of our magazine since we're refilling it as we go, and that means we're going to be maxed out at 35% power for quite a while. The other alternative with this is you could use Inspiring Barrage, which is going to give you toughness back for every 10% of your magazine. But as you saw in that clip, I'm already getting a crazy amount of toughness back from firing so many bullets, so that's really not that necessary. This weapon is just absolutely insane. It is a little bit of an ammo glut, even with the ammo efficiency statted into it, but a really, really cool weapon, and it's always awesome when you have one of these guys in your team and you see them walk up to a demon host or a boss and you know what's about to happen. So, very cool. Let's take a look at our last couple weapons. So what you just saw there was the Surge Force Staff, this one right down here. Now this weapon is really, really cool if you have a build that can deal with all of the peril that you can build up using it. I don't have a perfectly rolled one. I just happened to get these blessings off of a drop and figured I could show it off that way. But what you'll want is very similar to this next staff we're going to look at as well. I'm throwing in a bonus staff just because staves are just for Psycher. So, you know, these are pretty similar and require very similar blessings. Now, the Surge Force Staff isn't that hard to get the blessings on because there's only a few blessings available. As you can see here, there's only 4 blessings in Tier 3 and 3 blessings in Tier 4. So getting these blessings is not that hard. What's hard is getting the perks and the damage modifiers and all that stuff to be as nice as it could be. And that's what we were focusing on with the crafting. But the way we want this weapon to work is we want our critical hit chance to be as high as possible, because critical lightning charges do a crazy amount of damage. They just instantly pop a lot of enemies. And in order to shoot those things out as fast as possible, since we're going to be charging our secondary attack, we want Warp Flurry, which at Tier 4 gives us 8.5% charge time, which is like a whole quarter of the charge time off when it's fully charged up. And then Warp Nexus can give us up to 20% crit chance. This is on top of all of the passive crit that the Psycher already gets, which is quite a bit. And it means we're critting pretty often and doing a really, really good amount of damage with this thing. In a similar vein, you could get the same blessings, since all stabs have the same blessing pool generally. You could get the same blessings and apply them to the Void Strike Force Staff. However, the Void Strike Staff has access to a couple of unique blessings, one of which is Blazing Spirit. Blazing Spirit adds Soul Blaze. It's only available at Tier 3. It doesn't go to Tier 4, but it adds Soul Blaze when you critically hit enemies. So that can be really good for dealing with big hordes, because this enemy, or this staff, does a big splash to start with. It also can roll with this devastating blessing, which I have not been lucky enough to get yet. But when you get a critical hit, you fire 2 shots. And since this thing's secondary shots are like big exploding bombs that pretty much instantly kill gunners and elites as it is, shooting 2 instead of 1 is just better. And it gives you 5% range crit chance. So that just rocks. This can be a really, really powerful staff in the same hands. I think this one is for more long range use, and then the Surge Force Staff would be if you like to be a little more up close and personal. but either one is an absolute go-to, and it's great for a dedicated caster build for the Psycher. So anyway, y'all, I hope this was informative, or at least gets you excited about some new weapons to look into crafting. Maybe you're even so eager to get to that crafting that you'll start re-rolling for some of them today and trying to get the best luck out of the RNG system. Or hey, maybe you have a really well-rolled base laying around and you can get some of these perks on there and get this thing rolling. I hope it helps. If you liked it, let me know. Leave a like, a comment. Please subscribe. I really appreciate it. And also, if you have any weapons, especially range weapons I missed, or melee weapons, because I'm going to do a video for melee weapons, leave them down in the chat and I'll include it in the next video. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great one.